Hi guys, it's Kirsty here from My Home Truths. I'm here for another Wins of the Week Facebook Live post. Sorry if this is a little bit not as smooth today. I'm sitting upstairs in my room because the light's a little bit better. I found the last few times in my dining room with my red wall, the light is a little bit bit weird, and particularly on days like today when it's quite overcast outside, it plays around a bit. But I'm here again to share some wins of the week, which I like doing. It's a little reminder and a way that I can be appreciative of all the good things there is and the positives of being a parent, where when you're in the bowels of it, sometimes that's really hard to remember, and it's sometimes hard to appreciate the wins and the positives. So this is what I try and do every week to remind myself that things are not all bad. And I invite you guys to do the same. So if you've got a win of the week, or if you've got something you're happy about, or just something positive you want to share, let's end the week positively and share it. You can do that in the comments below. So I've got a few wins of the week this week again, which is great. Yay. The first one was the fact that I actually went out on last Saturday and did my presentation at the the Travel with Kids Expo here in Newcastle. So I'm very excited about that. And even better, two families came up to talk to me and wanted to know more about sort of my experience travelling as an autism family, and seemed to get a fair bit out of what I shared. So if you haven't already checked out my post from Wednesday, which is 10 strategies for successfully travelling as an autism family. That pretty much includes the information I shared at that presentation. So feel free to have a look at that post and to share it. And my video from Monday had that information as well, so you can check that out as well on the page. So that was a win. I'm very excited about that, and it validated what I've been doing and all the work that I've put so far into the ebook. So I've got an editor on board, so the ebook will hopefully be edited over the next month or so, a couple of months maybe, and I'm in the process of having a look at getting designs and layout expertise as well, because I really want to make this to be a really good product. So initially it'll be an ebook and only electronically available, but I'm hoping to have a print copy down the track as well. So looking at this stage to be next year that'll be ready, and it's just because, you know, the editing process and all that, I want to do it right and do it properly. So I'm very excited about that. But on to some parenting wins, which is always good to have as well. This week we received Matilda's diagnosis, her reassessment diagnosis. A few months back I shared that because she's going into year 6 next year, so we'll be doing a similar transition process to what we've done with Gilbert this year. We really needed to get her diagnosis redone because her diagnosis was Asperger's, and it was under the old DSM-4, and it hadn't been done since she was 6 years old, so it's 5 years down the track now. And for purposes of getting access to, you know, to having an IEP and to have funding for her to go to high school, we really needed an updated confirmation of her diagnosis. So we got that back, the draft, and she has ASD level 1, which is no surprise because that fits in with her earlier diagnosis. And she's also received an additional diagnosis of separation anxiety disorder, which is also not a surprise to us. But it's good that we've got that down now, and the psychologist has a way forward for us, which is really good. So we'll be doing some more therapy with her to get her on track there. And we're also looking at getting whatever funding and therapy. So it looks like she'll be needing psychology, OT and speech, sort of as Gilbert has now too. And the other win of the week for me was to actually finally pick up the phone and talk to the NDIS about getting her onto the system. Up to now, because of our diagnosis was out of date, and because for a while there she was doing really well, so we didn't see the need for her to access NDIS funding, we just didn't apply. So Gilbert applied. We applied for him when we were able to here in Newcastle. He was it was one of the trial sites, so he's actually on his 3rd plan. He goes into his 4th plan. We'll be doing that planning meeting really soon. So I'm quite I suppose, comfortable with the process that we've had. I haven't shared a great deal only because the trial, things have changed so much that there was no point in sort of sharing in those first few years because, it was not going to be relevant to anyone now. But because I'm actually now going through the process of applying for Matilda, and how you do that, you used to be able to do it online. Now you actually have to ring up and talk to an intake officer, and then they send you out the forms. So we're in the process of filling them out, getting the psychologist to fill a bit out on their side. There's got to be a professional sign off as well, and then it will go into their intake team, and then it'll be interesting to see. And hopefully I'll be able to share that process with you because obviously the NDIS is spreading and it will be in force everywhere sort of in a few years. So I'm hoping to use this as sort of a test case and a bit of a way that I can share how that NDIS process goes for you, because the first time around we were directly referred from Vision Australia for Gilbert. This time around it's basically sort of a self-referral, so it's a different way. So I'm intrigued to see sort of the differences there, and I do want to share how to go about it. And I certainly want to share in sort of in the future sort of how you go about putting your plan together, because as I said, we'll be having the planning meeting shortly for our fourth plan, so we have sort of been able to refine that. It hasn't changed a great deal over the years for Gilbert. However, in this year we put a lot of stuff in for his transition to high school, and there will be still an element of that for next year as he goes to high school, and we need to have supports in place to make sure that the transition is indeed smooth for him. So that was a big win this week, was to finally do that, because I suppose there's a part of me I'm scared that she won't be eligible, although she should be. And I suppose, it was just daunting. And I think it's like everybody, even though I'm in it, I came in it easily, I guess. We were sort of referred over and it happened, and, and now it's sort of, So it'll be interesting. So I'll share that with you. So that was a win. The other win of this week, as far as parenting is concerned, was Gilbert having his second transition visit to high school. And that went really well. The best thing was driving to school yesterday and Matilda asking him what high school's like, and he said to her, it's awesome. So I think that's really good. So fingers crossed. That means that he's happy and that he is getting support that he needs. Obviously we won't know really how it's going to go until next year, but he's lucky he has friends going with him. He's a smart kid. We're putting everything in place. We're doing everything we absolutely can. So, we can only sort of hope. But so far, the effort we've put in has definitely been worth it. So last week he also had Aspect, a representative from Aspect, come in to look at him in the classroom, in his primary school classroom, before his first transition visit, just to have a feel about what's unconsciously happening, what supports are already in place, what might need to happen to take him up to high school, and he pointed out, and I was really pleased that he thinks Gilbert's doing really well, and that he doesn't anticipate there's going to be a lot of issues with that transition. But some of the things that we're looking at doing, in addition to some of the stuff I've already shared, and I'll put the post about transitioning to high school at the bottom of this, is that he really likes having rapport with adults. So it's really important to him to have a good conversation with teachers. So he knows which teachers at primary school he can talk to about cricket. He knows which ones he can talk to about music, history, that sort of thing. So what Aspect of suggested we do, which I think is a really good idea, is to sort of do a little dossier for Gilbert when he starts, when we know what teachers he has for each subject. So we can have a sentence or two against a picture of each teacher and a little cheat sheet that can go with his work, can go in, on a device on his computer, or go sort of in his folder. They might say, oh, this teacher likes a chat and likes cricket. This teacher's usually a bit busy for a chat. Just to give him a little bit of reassurance about how he can approach people. And this will be the same, I think, with a lot of kids who are verbal on the spectrum. They, my experience, they're more comfortable speaking with adults, and they like sort of having that adult sort of conversation and that rapport with them. So particularly we know that if Gilbert doesn't get that, that will affect his behaviour, because he'll feel like he's not being listened to. He'll feel like he's not being... that his opinion's not valued, and that's when he'll start acting out. So we're going to try and sort of, I suppose, prevent that by giving him sort of this little bit of extra information, obviously giving the teachers that bit of information, saying, if you've got the time, maybe sort of have a couple of words with him, just to sort of give him that that sense of security, and then hopefully, that will, things will play out, and once the rapport's set and he knows what's expected, it'll be a bit easier. So that's one of the things we're going to do for him. And the other issue is obviously his executive functioning, and we have a few issues there. He's going to have a fair bit of equipment with him next year because of his vision, so he's getting a laptop, but also a portable magnifier that will go with that. So he'll be able to sit anywhere in the classroom, set up his portable magnifier. It goes into a USB on the computer, and it will basically enlarge what's on the screen. So he won't be able to see it from where he's sitting. He's never been able to, but hopefully through that it will go through his computer, and he'll be able to keep up with the class that way. So we know that he's going to have extra time to set that up, and extra time at the end to put it away, and then pack up his bag, his books and things, and then get to his next class. So we really need to do a little bit of work with him on personal organisation. So that's something that we're working on as well. But other than that, they're pretty happy with him, and they think just that the fact that he'll be walking between classes will give him enough sort of sensory re-energisation between sessions to help him out. So, it's a learning process and we're getting there, but I think the win for us has been the fact that he is very happy at the moment, and he's looking forward to that next chapter, which is exciting. The other one we've got this week is I finally got in touch with Guide Dogs. They're going to come out this afternoon and actually help Gilbert travel from the primary school to the high school. So they're actually quite close. They're only about 5 minutes away from each other. But I think for an independence thing, if he wants to walk from the high school to meet me at the primary school in the afternoon next year, I'll be more than happy with that. Or if he wanted to walk to his friend's house, or just to give him that level of independence that he needs. So that's what we need orientation mobility training for. So that's what Guide Dogs is coming in to do, and they're going to help him because there's some rough patches and there's some areas where there isn't actually any full pathways either. So just to give him a little bit of an idea there, because just things like road sense, it scares me the most, because obviously from an autism point of view, he just doesn't have that same sense of awareness around him. But then when you put the vision impairment on top of that, he can't even see. He can't even see any great distance. So my biggest fear for him really is that having that independence, but not having the road safety and that awareness that comes with it. And we can teach him certain elements of that, but it's always going to be tricky. So this is why we're investing a bit of time and effort into getting him ready. So hopefully that'll be another win that we'll have, and another step in this sort of never-ending process, it seems, to get him ready for high school. But as I said, I'm really, really, really pleased at the moment with how things are going, and I'm really pleased with how he's coping. Things are a bit stressful, and I suppose we've survived a pretty tough week in some ways. The kids have all been unhappy at different times. Tuesday was a nightmare. And yeah, it's fourth term. We're, 3 weeks in, nearly, we can see the end of the line when it comes to the end of the year. And yeah, it gets a bit tough. So hang in there, everybody. I hope that you have some wins that you can share this week too. And please do so in the comments below. And hopefully you can join me on Monday, and I'll take on another challenge. And then, yeah, every Friday I look at sharing wins, because I think it's important for us as parents, whether we've got special needs kids or otherwise, for us to try and find the positives in any way we can. And that's what I aim to do every Friday here. So thank you so much for joining me, and I'll talk to you later. I hope you have a great weekend. See you later.